So, talk to me for a little bit, millennial men. Have you ever been feeling like you're doing good, you're doing well, you've had you've been doing well in your recovery, or you've been avoiding lapses or relapses, then out of nowhere, boom, you slip, you relapse. What happened? Let's talk about it. My name is Jay Bryan, and this is Millennial Man Porn Recovery. Welcome back, you all. We're talking about our next step in our 7-step porn addiction recovery process for millennial men. So, what happened specifically were that somewhere down the line, or maybe even recently, before that sudden slip or that sudden relapse, you crossed a blocker. A blocker. Now, what is a blocker? A blocker is something that's put in place to prevent or to keep you away from a trigger. That's a blocker. Now, let's talk a little bit more about blockers and how to establish them, right? So when it comes to blockers, these are very specific. You may know them as boundaries. I call them blockers because they block you from getting to those trigger points. But you may know them as boundaries. So how do you establish these blockers in your life, in your recovery? So what you do is you list out your triggers, which you should have already done if you looked at the last step, right? List out all of your triggers. And for each individual trigger, you want to establish a blocker for that particular one. For example, let's look at my own blockers, my own triggers. Some of my main triggers, I have a few. Some of my main triggers are being alone with access. That's one. So what blocker did I put in place? I removed all possible access, minus the devices I mentioned last video. I removed all possible access to pornography, all of it. So even if I'm alone, I have no way to access it. Besides the devices I mentioned last video, those would accessing it on those will go against my value system. So it would literally be like me, I don't know, personally fighting my parents or kicking my mom or something, something of that nature. So that's one blocker. Another blocker is extreme stress. Extreme stress. I personally have a lot of responsibilities. I'm a father. I'm a husband. I have my career. I have my mission working with you guys. And stress can easily creep in if I allow it. If I get very, very stressed, I want an escape. I want to run to pornography. And so the blocker that I put in there was to consistently manage my stressors. When we get to talking about your recovery toolkit, we'll talk about a tool that you can use to manage stress in general, but there are specific stressors, of course, along the way. Like maybe you struggle with arguing with your significant other. A specific blocker we can put in place for a stressor like that, or a boundary we can put in place, is to make sure that we learn the best way to communicate with your significant other. So those are just two examples, and I have other triggers as well. I'll give one more as a bonus. If I eat or overeat, apologies, if I overeat and break my nutritional plan that I follow, And let's say that, one day I just go crazy with the sweets and things. I will tell myself, or I had the tendency to tell myself, I've already messed up in this area. I've already messed up with my diet. Well, how about I just go ahead? I've already messed up. Let's just go ahead and mess up other stuff for today and start over tomorrow. I know that's not the best way to go, but that's a overeating, or just or I guess missing a goal, so to speak. That can cause me. It's a domino effect. I'll start to want to watch porn and start to want to do other things. And to block that, I had to make sure that I'm following my personal nutrition plan, making sure to get sleep, other things, which we'll talk about in other videos. So those are a couple of blockers that I put up myself. Now, here's the thing. Blockers are not 100% effective. Like when we were talking about putting up the wall, I think 2 steps ago, we were talking about putting up the wall. People can climb a wall. You see it all the time in movies. Maybe when you were a kid, you climbed a wall or a fence. People can climb over those things. Same thing with blockers. While a blocker may block you from getting certain triggers, you have them in place. You're still able to bypass them if you really really want to. You still are able to. So sometimes there will come a point where you will, in your recovery journey, where you will go past your blocker and you may slip or relapse. Here's my offering to you. Do not beat yourself up. Don't do it. What you want to do is you want to look at your relapse or your slip, and you want to look at the 24-hour period leading up to it. And you want to write down, you want to ask yourself some questions. Was I taking care of myself? Were you participating in self-care, right? Were you using your recovery toolkit? You want to write that down. Your tools, which you'll learn about those. You may have your own tools that you use to cope with strong emotions and different things that go on throughout your life. Were you using those? And then you want to ask, what happened specifically? What happened 24 hours leading up to my slip or my relapse? These questions, and was I staying accountable? Therefore, were you staying accountable with your accountability partners? And we're going to talk about that. I believe that's the next step. Okay. Ask yourself those questions, and the answer to those questions will help not only determine what led to that slip, but it will help prevent further slips, because you can make an adjustment based on the data that you see. Okay. And again, we'll talk more about slips and relapses as we continue our journey, but this specific video is about the step of creating blockers. So you all, with that, I wanted to thank you all for being with me today and learning. Don't forget our video, or not video, our class we have coming up. It's confidential. No cameras are required. You won't have to turn on your camera. You won't even have to speak unless you want to speak. But it is called Manning Your Recovery. It will be March 9th from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's a Thursday. The link will be in the description to sign up for Manning Your Recovery. It's for my millennial men, or anyone can come who struggles with this. But of course, our aim, our mission at Millennial Man Foreign Recovery is to help millennial men. That's our aim. But of course, anyone, if you need assistance, I got you. We got you. Okay. Subscribe, comment, and it's early in the morning. You all bear with me. It's really early, and I wanted to make sure to get this video recorded and posted for you guys. So if I'm stuttering and things, I had my water and I've done my morning routine, but I'm still early. Still. Um, Make sure to subscribe, comment, like, hit that notification bell. We give free videos coming out weekly for you all, just talking about my recovery journey, what I've learned, and what I want to pass along to my millennial men. All right. And with that, again, I am Jay Bryan, and this has been a message from Millennial Man Porn Recovery. Y'all have a great one. Peace.